Quick look at the new Reedy S++ 17.5 turn spec motor for 2018. Lots of claims they make saying it's lowest resistance and machine parts, etc., rotor, all the usual good stuff. So I can compare it to lots of other motors I tested previously, including the ones that go very well, like the R1 and Phantoms and things like much more. Anyway, have a look inside. The motor, comes with a sensor lead. The construction is very open on the laminations for cooling, but the windings are covered over by the way they've done the cutouts. It's normally the windings that you want to cool rather than the stator, which is cooled naturally by the can anyway, but that's the way they've done the cutouts. The front's cut out quite nicely. The collector is not too huge, so there's some gaps around the outer edges to allow air to flow through. There is a paper insulator behind which is bigger than the collector, which doesn't need to be, which blocks off the air a bit. You can't quite see it, it's black, sort of a thick paper. And there's a cutout at the back to let some air through as well. Nice solid metal tags for good conducting of electricity, low resistance, and nice and strong. The back, the 3 screws holding the back on for locating it nice and central, and the graduations only go up to 50 degrees, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 on the timing marks, and there's a tiny little white mark which indicates where you've set it. I wish they'd make them a bit bigger. Shimming excellent, tiny bit of play, and it's got number 27414 engraved on the flat part of the shaft coming out from the rotor. So I'll set it up and test it. The magnets, the turning rotor, seems like a nice strong rotor, very chunky and hard to turn. Black colour, some legends on it, and obviously 13 point. This one's got 17.5 etched or marked on the laminations there. Let's just do the weight. 145.7, very light. The previous lightest one was a much more 148.5, and the R1 151.2. So 145.8 now is the lightest we've seen. Testing the winding resistance, which is all important. The lower the better, and for a 17.5 turn, the lowest I've seen was a 0.038 on the R1, and the Phantom managed 0.039. So that is the ballpark we're aiming for. Let's just clip it on. Well, 0.037, just jumping point between 037 and 038. That is a new class leader, better than even than the R1. Yep. So that is a very good winding indeed. For comparison purposes, I set the motor up at 6 amps draw by adjusting the end-bell timing. Previously, the R1 has been the outright winner by quite a lot, and also on the track the R1 has proved to be a very good motor indeed. Gave a 3426 kV. This is given a 3689. So it's incredibly good motor, and that's not just achieved because it's got a weak rotor. It's got a very strong magnetic rotor. So the results of this really are proving excellent. Let's just do the timing. The timing of the motor, 44 degrees, and a spread of 44, 43, 44. So excellent sensor board. Also, the fact that it's got low timing to achieve that result means that it's got a very good bandwidth for the power, not a really peaky one. So gearing it's not going to be that difficult. The M-bell mark for that timing, 44 degrees on here, it's about 48, the little dots, hard to see exactly, but a bit out. Taking it apart, see the construction, nice and simple. This is the stator, obviously being pushed into the can. This the body, the end you can see. Oh, it's pushed in, but this one's going to come out. Unusual, they don't normally come out. So there's the very thin alloy can. There's the stator, 17.5 turn on it. Now you can see the wires are incredibly neatly wound, much neater than some others I've seen. The stator, of course, doesn't use any sort of form of plastic now, and it relies on the green epoxy to insulate the wires, stop them cutting through. There's the collector, nice and small. It's got the thick paper insulator behind it, which could have been cut a little bit smaller, done so that the air can get through. Nice solid tags on the back, riveted to stop them moving, and there's an insulator on the front as well. Again, they possibly could have made it a little bit smaller, but nicely done. Now the sensor board looks like their own design. It's completely different from ones I've seen before. It's on a nice alloy stand up to keep it centered, and the actual design and the components are different from ones you've seen before, and the results were good. The motor is very short as well. I didn't show you that, but it's actually short front to back, and the front piece is obviously a piece of aluminium solid, but they've kept the weight down to the absolute minimum. Now the rotor, the all-important rotor, it's got a reading number on it. CS 12.5 times 24.2. Reedy says, and the strength is going to be quite high, I believe. So let's just have a look. Let's just give it a couple of goes. About 1475, 77, 1483. So it's getting on for the 1500 mark, and which is a good strength for acceleration and revs. Seem to have done a good job in selecting the rotor as well. As it's out, it'd be easy to measure the stack length. Just make sure it's on the, not on the epoxy, and on the actual lamination ends of the laminations. 19.55. Can't normally weigh the stators, but as this one's come out of the can, I'll just weigh it just while we've got it here. 90.3 grams. Just putting it back together. Personally, I would have preferred that they had the cutout across showing the coils. It meant showing the screw going through, so but who cares about that? Doing it like like the way they've done it, the coils are hidden behind the black part, the casing. If they'd done it like that, the coils would have been exposed, better cooling in my opinion, but yeah, that's the way they decided to do it. So the new Reedy S++, this is a 1751. How did it work out? Well, it worked out fantastically well. One thing I also didn't mention was the length. It's very short front to back, about 51 millimeters, which contributes to the fact that it's very lightweight, the lightest so far, and the results excellent, high kV, but with a good rotor strength as well, nearly 1500, means it's going to have top end speed and acceleration, very low winding resistance, as low as anything, lower than anything we've tested before, including the normal class leader, the R1, which was 0.038 and a kV of 3426. About the same motor strength, 1475, 1491. It wasn't quite as well, plus and minus balance. So it's a very similar motor to the R1, but possibly better. I think it beats all the others generally that are around, such as the Motive, which has got a very good bottom end, we know, but really this is the best one I've seen. The only caveat is the cooling. People are going to push this motor hard because of what it can deliver, but the airflow is not great round the coils, although it's got cutouts here, a bit blanked off by the paper, and the stator is cooled, but the air needs to get into the coils. They're the things that are going to burn out if you push it too hard. So hopefully it will not burn out. Hopefully these good wires if you push this hard. Gearing wise, well, don't over gear it. It's going to be the FDR is going to be a high number, like small pinion, etc. To start off with, don't try and over gear it. I think that will not be good for it. Timing. If you haven't got a meter, set it up at about 45 to 48 on the timing, and it should be pretty close to optimum performance. So there it goes. I think that's a very good motor indeed.